All right, I'm still working away inside yet another variation.ai because I forgot to show you the before and after. I had prepared for that eventuality by hiding my selection edges, and yet I didn't get around to doing it. So here's the before and after. Here's what we accomplished in a previous exercise. This is what the background looked like before. If I press Control-Z, Command-Z on the Mac. Here's what it looks like now after having reassigned the colors inside the Recolor Artwork dialog box. Now let's say what I want to do. I want to recolor this t-shirt right here so it's the inverse version of that color scheme, because we don't need to see two side-by-side blue t-shirts. We need one of them to show the dark t-shirt with the light trim. And so what I'm going to need to do in order to grab those colors so I get an exact match with what I did inside the other document is I'm going to go over to the 8 colors to choose from.ai file. And I need to grab these color groups right here that I created inside the swatches panel. And then I'll take those color groups over to the other illustration. And then I'll use that blue color group right there, shades of blue, in order to remap the colors inside the Recolor Artwork dialog box. So let me show you how that works. So we're getting more and more advanced with our approach here. I'm going to go ahead and grab these guys, click on one, shift click on the other to select all 4 of these color groups. And you know what? I might as well make a color group for these yellow shirts as well. So I'll grab them. I'll click on the new color group icon at the bottom of the swatches panel. I'll call this yellow shades, and then I'll click OK. And so that gives me the blacks and the whites. Once again, click off. In order to deselect, click off the color group, click on one color, shift click on the other, grab them, drag them to the trash can. I wish it stopped doing that. And then I'll go ahead and click on the yellow shades group, shift click on shades of blue. So all 5 of those groups are selected. I'll drop down to this icon in the bottom left-hand corner of the swatches panel to get to the swatch libraries, and I'll choose Save Swatches. Definitely save to the location that Illustrator suggests here. And I'll call this new swatches file something like 5 shade groups. Should work good enough. It's kind of generic, but it'll work for me. Click on the Save button. Now let's switch over to yet another variation, that file in progress right there. And I'll drop down to this exact same icon there at the bottom of the swatches panel. Click on it, choose User Defined, and choose 5 shade groups. So you may see some other options, but just go ahead and choose the one that you just created if you're working along with me. Then I'll go ahead and open up 5 shade groups, and then the simplest thing to do is just click on each one of them to add them to the list. If you had a lot more, you could go ahead and select them all and drag and drop them over, but that could result in some duplicates, so why go that route? Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and close this little panel that I opened there. And now I want to lock my backdrop layer just so I don't end up selecting any of the background items. And I'm going to marquee my t-shirt, the right-hand t-shirt, and I might as well sort of scroll it over a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. I still have my selection edges hidden, so I could press Control-H, Command-H on the Mac to bring them back if I want. Then I'll go up to Recolor Artwork icon in the control panel, click on it in order to bring up Recolor Artwork, and we want to recolor these colors. Notice we only have 3 shades of blue inside this particular t-shirt. I'm going to click on Shades of Blue to remap them. Only nothing happens because all of these colors are already found inside of the 4 color group. So what in the world do I do? Well, we want to create a new container, new row here for our colors. So I'll drop down to the new row icon and click on it. And notice right away, Illustrator is smart enough to say, hey, you must want to remap something to the 4th color inside this group, which of course is absolutely true. Then the question becomes, well, what do I want to remap? Well, I want to remap these wrinkle colors right there, these dark wrinkle paths. I want to remap them to this dark color, and I just need to figure out what they are. So I'll grab my magnifying glass, click on this top one, because I suspect that's what it is. And sure enough, those are the wrinkles. That's a color assigned to the wrinkles, as well as those interior areas of the sleeve and the collar. And so I will click off that color. Actually, you don't have to. You can go ahead and drag this guy down to this row and drop it into place if you want to. You just won't see a preview of what you've done until you turn the magnifying glass off. And now it's going to darken up, which is great. And then I want to take this guy and move him into this group right there, because I want to make what was formerly dark light and what was formerly light dark. So I'm going to drag this guy into this group, and that doesn't look right at all. And we'll solve that in just a moment. And then I'll go ahead and drag this guy down into where that one was just a moment ago, to the 3rd row, and it'll remap like so. And that looks absolutely hunky-dory. So it looks like everything's worked out fine. But let me show you why it wasn't looking fine just a moment ago. I'll put this guy back where he was. The problem is that Illustrator is trying to map the colors to tints. So scale tints is the default option here. I'm going to switch it to exact, so everybody's getting matched to the exact shade. And then I'll click off. And that definitely does the trick. However, now we have two colors matching to that exact same shade of blue. So we don't have a difference between the trim and the fabric color. So in order to recolor the trim, I'll grab this color, drag it down into the third row, drop it into place, and we get this result here. It turns out what we want. So we're not bothered by the fact we have an empty row at the top. Just ignore that. Click OK in order to accept your changes. Illustrator this time doesn't whine about whether or not you should save your changes to the color group because you didn't make any changes to the color groups, and that's a nice thing. The final thing we need to do in order to complete the effect is go ahead and remap this white to black. And we're going to do that manually. I suppose we could have done it inside the Recolor Artwork dialog box, but it would have been more work than it was worth. So I'll go ahead and switch to my white arrow tool because the shirt, I believe, is grouped together. I'd have to go ahead and sort of open things up. Actually, well, it's not. So one of these type objects is what I want. I don't have to switch to the white arrow tool. I'll get my black arrow tool by pressing the V key, and I'll just go ahead and click on this type to select it independently of everything else. Awesome. All right, now I will change it to black. And I want a weak black. I don't want the rich black because that's going to give me too much ink is basically why, and I'll show you in a moment. But I want this guy, which is just if I hover over it, it's 0 for CM and Y and 100% black. So I'll click on it in that first group. Then I'll press Control H or Command H on the Mac so you can see what's happened. We end up with this very sort of weird light gray effect, and that's because I've got the black set to 50% opacity and Illustrator's giving it a weird mix. And we'll discuss this kind of stuff more, why this kind of thing happens in Illustrator, when we take a look at opacity inside the context of the transparency chapter, which is coming up soon. But what I need to do is apply that darkening blend mode, multiply. So I'm going to click on opacity, the word opacity, up here in the control panel, in order to bring up the opacity drop-down panel. And I'm going to switch from normal to multiply in order to darken that text up so that it looks like so. And that's it. Now we have two variations on the t-shirts set against two variations on the background, thanks to the ongoing power of the Recolor Artwork dialog box here inside Illustrator.